A very good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of India Net Zero Alliance and First View Group, I am Meenakshi, joined by my co-host Vaishali, and it is our absolute pleasure to welcome you all in today's high-impact webinar, BESS for C&I Power Leaders, presented in association with Sunsure Energy. Before we begin, let me give you a quick overview of what to expect in today's session. As India accelerates towards its ambitious net zero targets and 100% renewable energy goals by 2030, industries face the urgent challenge of securing clean, affordable power round the clock. Yet, fluctuations in renewable energy supply and peak hour demand continue to drive reliance on costly carbon-intensive backup power, posing hurdles to both sustainability and cost efficiency. This is where BESS are providing to be transformative. By seamlessly integrating renewable energy sources with grid and captive power, BESS enables reliable delivery of clean electricity 24/7. With cutting-edge technology, smart grid synergy, and supportive policies, BESS not only shields industries from price volatility, but also delivers significant operational cost savings. In today's session, we will explore how commercial and industrial power leaders can transform their energy procurement strategies through BESS-enabled power purchase agreements. Before we dive in, we'd like to express our sincere gratitude to Sunsure Energy, our exclusive partner for today's session. Sunsure has been instrumental in accelerating India's clean energy transition and supporting C&I consumers in accessing green power at scale. Let's begin the proceedings with our keynote address. It is our honor to welcome Mr. Debmalya Sen, President, Indian Energy Storage Alliance. Mr. Sen brings over 25 years of cross-functional expertise in project execution, regulation, and finance. With advanced degrees in engineering, law, and finance, he has contributed immensely to both technical and regulatory reforms, and has also served as the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, enriching his macroeconomic and policy perspectives. Today, he will be sharing his keynote on energy storage at the heart of India's net zero industrial transition. Welcome, sir. The virtual stage is all yours.
Thank you, Meenakshi. Hello, everyone, and hope you all can see the presentation. Let me know if you all can see the presentation. Meenakshi, is visible?
Yes,
Okay.
it's visible.
Perfect. Thank you. So, battery storage or energy storage, as we tell it, has been a story to be told for everyone who is working in the sector. Now, so I represent Indian Energy Storage Alliance. We are the only alliance for energy storage in India. We have around 200 members, established in 2012, and we work in 5 verticals, including stationary storage, e-mobility, manufacturing, green hydrogen, and recycling and reuse. But that's not why I'm here. Let's talk about storage, right? The fact that energy storage is critical enabler for the world to reach its net zero decarbonization limits, targets is well known. And the thing is that storage finds its application across the domain. It can be on generation side, it can be on distribution side, it can be in transmission side, as well as in consumption side. But when we talk about storage, more than often, directly the discussion goes into pumped hydro or lithium-ion batteries. But the family here is much larger than what we are talking about. It encapsulates compressed air, flow batteries, sodium-ion, thermal, high-temperature batteries, etc. Now, even in lithium-ion, there are multiple chemistries. Okay, so my point is that there is much more than what we discuss. Maybe it not be making economic sense today, but you never know. In the coming decade, everything can make economic sense. But then the question arises that if there are so many technologies, do they not cannibalize each other? The answer is no. Each technology has its sweet spot in this spectrum of time and capacity. Now, why therefore lithium? The discussion is so much on lithium ion because of it getting suitable in the duration of storage that we require today, that is from 2 hours to 4 hours or 6 hours. That is the duration in which lithium ion has emerged as a leader. Now, when we talk about storage, all of you have heard about many of these matrices by which we measure particular technology. One of these measures is cycle life, the other is energy density. Now, cycle life actually means how many times you can charge and discharge the battery till the end of its life. And so basis of cycle life, and I will only discuss upon stationary storage, that a multiple of things happens and technology is chosen because of cycle life, because of round trip efficiency, and the third term, which is known as depth of discharge. So that is how much can you discharge a battery once you charge it. So these are the particular matrices we use to define batteries as it is. Now, the battery industry, now a little bit of background, because it's very essential you understand what this entire value chain encapsulates. Why is the cost rising? Why is the cost decreasing? So that is imperative to understand the entire value chain. We start with the critical raw materials. Many materials are used in the batteries. Out of them, lithium, nickel, and cobalt are the critical raw materials. Now, the stages in this entire value chain is you mine the materials, you process the materials, then you make the component. Component means cathode, anode, electrolyte. Then you make the battery, then it goes to end use and then recycle. Of these, the biggest revenue generator is manufacturing. That is, if you don't have control over manufacturing, if a country doesn't have control over manufacturing, then it loses its game. But even before manufacturing, there is someone else who rules, that is processing. Processing holds a maximum value before manufacturing happens. So mining in one sector is high risk, low return, but then processing is where the essence of the story lies. And giving an example, 90% of world's processing power relies just on one country. Guesses any? So just to tell you about the total value chain, so we have cells, multiple cells make a module, multiple of these modules make a pack, multiple of these packs make a rack, then multiple of these racks along with BMS, EMS, energy management system, PCS inverter, HVAC system, cables, fire system goes into a container. This is what I call as container. If I remove the PCS out of the container, then it's DC. If I include it, then it's AC. Along with transformer, meter, and grid connection. This entire thing is BESS. So next time someone tells you cell ka cost, battery ka cost $35 hai, so that 35 is the cell cost. Okay, and so it's used very casually, the price. So no one knows at what point what the price is quoted. So this is what the entire system is. And of course, cell is around 30% of this total cost. So you can imagine why cell matters so much in battery. India per se, we have had a huge demand potential. The estimated potential is by 2020, 2031, 32, we will need around 47 gigawatts into 5 hours of storage. That is 236 gigawatt of just battery storage. I'm not even talking about pumped hydro. This all total battery storage and pumped hydro will require an investment potential of around 479,000 crores from 2022 to 2032. Our various levers has been adopted from policy and regulatory domain, not only in demand side, but also in supply side. Demand side enablers include something like energy storage obligations. That is, every state of the total energy, 4% has to come through energy storage. But then this is not linked with penalties like RPO. It is voluntary as of today. We have a national framework for energy storage, and very recently the government said, passed on advisory, not a mandate, that every solar installation has to be coupled with 10% of battery storage. ISTS waivers are in place for storage. We have viability gap funding. One of the main enablers, catalysts of what you see today happening is because of VGF, where the government said government will fund 30% of the project cost. That was VGF 1. The second VGF is that 30% is reduced to 16% of your project cost. Guidelines for tenders has been shared. BESS is allowed in secondary and tertiary reserve ancillary market, not in primary. I know the main revenue stream comes from primary, but it is not allowed in primary. Energy storage in our budgets have been declared as a champion sector, and it has also been included in harmonized roof of infrastructure. Very recently, just last week, asset class of a storage device is defined by MOP. Now, this is one of the main levers, what we see as opening gate of C&I applications. So, and last but not the least, we have a policy for pumped hydro too. If we look into the supply side, we had a PLI scheme of 18,100 crores to promote 50 gigawatt hour of battery manufacturing in India. Out of this 50, 40 has been awarded to Reliance and Ola, 10 is under work. We have identified critical raw materials, and then we have signed pact with governments who have these raw materials and who have processing technology with them. Cabinet very recently approved 1.5 thousand crores for critical mineral recycling, one of the main areas which will become a focus point in the coming years. Government incentives and subsidies for manufacturing plant, budget, reduced customs duty on critical minerals. All this has been done. So that is what I wanted to say you, that a lot has happened in policy and regulatory domain, both on supply as well as on demand side, to promote the sector. But is only center doing the work? No, states have also equally worked in promoting energy storage. Some of the states have gone ahead and published regulations for energy storage. Some have gone ahead and said, given numbers that how much they will achieve by 2031-32. So this has been the policy landscape or the regulatory landscape, as you say, for energy storage. What this has resulted in is this graph, which talks enough. So we were around two, three tenders till 2021, and then it shooted up. We have 52 tenders as on date as in 2025. Can you imagine that? Last year, we had 35. Now, if you look into 2022, 2023, you see a lot of red in the graph. That is, tenders were cancelled. In 23, out of 25, 13 were cancelled. But if you look into 24 and 25, the graph looks very healthy. If I convert these to numbers, we have 81 gigawatt hour of battery storage tenders issued and 114 gigawatt hour of pumped hydro issued today. Maximum of these have been build and operate, a bit of EPC tenders and BOOT kind of models have been identified. If you look into the kind of tenders, we have solar plus storage, FDRE, which is firm and dispatchable renewable, that is solar plus wind plus storage, and standalone storage. So if you look into the blue graph, it talks about standalone storage. It has risen up like a hockey stick, right? So a main catalyst of this is, of course, the VGF scheme. And you see the number rising to 46 gigawatt hours. If you look into the green graph, it is the FDRE. FDRE was rising till 2024. We had multiple FDRE tenders, but then it went flat. So as of today, we have around 29 gigawatt hour there. So sorry, 29 gigawatt renewable category. So, and next, but not last, but not the least, is solar plus storage. This was initially relegated to Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Lakshadweep, Kargil, to look into diesel replacement, solar plus storage as a measure to replace diesel. But then came in SECI with 120 megawatt hour and so on and so forth, by which we have seen solar plus storage also taking up. Of course, the tariffs has also been handsome. So standalone storage 2 hours 2 cycle has been around, the trajectory has been 10.83 to 2.08 in just 2 years time. Standalone of 2 years, 2 hours 1 cycle is 2.19, and then you have standalone for 4 hours, one cycle, 4.44 to 3.59. And standalone storage with charging also in developer's responsibility is someone sitting in the chair today, Kartikeya. Sunshare won the tender at 6.64 rupees per kilowatt hour. We have solar plus storage with 2 hours of solar coming to 3.41 to 3.09. 4 hours of storage comes to 3.52 and 3.13. Very recently, Morena Solar Park came down, brought that tariff down to 2.7 rupees per kilowatt hour, whereby it's wrong to compare it because it is 2 cycle of battery discharge. One, the charging power is given by you. The second one is given by the Dishcom itself. So that this is a 2.7 number, which is, I read in the newspapers about the lowest tariff. No, it's not the lowest tariff. It's a benchmark tariff, but may not be the lowest tariff. And then you have the FDREs, which have been in the tariff range of 4.26 to 5.6 rupees per kilowatt hour, which tells you why FDREs have stopped now. This year, we had just one FDRE tender and nothing more. So that is the story about tendering activity. Just looking into the companies who are there. So if you look into the FDRE and solar plus storage, you will find identified companies who have been in renewables forever entering into this domain. But if you come to standalone BESS, that is where you find a multiple new companies, many of these infra players getting into this game. The question is why? I will come to that. Now, basis of whatever has been tendered out and whoever has won, FDRE, we have 4 categories, not in 1, 2, 3, 4, but then one of the major categories, Avada, Acme, Juniper, and Renew. Solar plus storage, we have Hero Future, Reliance, NU, NTPC, and Acme. And standalone, we have Reliance, IndiGrid, Acme, and Pace Digitech. So these are the major ones who are making the right noises. And of course, IndiGrid is not alone. One of the people who are in the chair today, Amperar, Ayush, I'm not going to tell more. Ayush will be telling more on that. But then why is standalone storage so important, so famous? Just look into the bid construct. Tenure is 12 to 15 years. Business model is BOO or boot. Off-taker is known. Land is given to you, or in certain cases, land you have to identify. Connectivity is ready. Best charging is given to you, or in certain cases, you have to identify the best charging. You have to cater to best charging also. Commissioning period is 18 months. You have a viability gap funding, and the availability is 95%. That is where you are measured. Right? So it's kind of a very risk-free model. And that is why people have got so much of confidence in this. And of course, we will discuss more on this. But going to the graphs, straight away, solar plus storage tender 6.99 coming down to 2.7. FDRE tenders have been around 4 to 5 rupees, and this is the story to be told. 11.25 coming down to 2.08 in around 2 years' time. That's it. That is 75% drop in tariffs in just 2 years' time. Of course, lithium ion cost dropped, but more than that, many other things led to the drop in cost. Also, technological innovation and improvement has happened. Now, this is something which, of course, you can debate on the numbers. The numbers can be up and down, but generally, cell constitutes 32% of the total cost. Then you come to DC module, which constitutes around 55 to 60% of your total cost. Then you transport that to in India, where you have I'm explaining that you're getting the DC container from China and the rest you're doing in India. So that is where you find that the maximum contributor is cell, then comes in the DC block, and then comes in the transformer and other things. So this is how the cost breakup in a very layman term can be shown to you. So yes, that was all I had to share, and thank you. Over to you.
for sharing your insights with us. Before we move on to the industry presentation, let's take a quick moment to launch our first poll. So our first poll is live. I would request the audience to pitch in their answers. We have 4 options. Okay. So while our poll stays live and the audience takes their time to pitch in their answers, we would now move on to the industry presentation. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Kartikeya Sharma, co-founder and Chief Business Officer, Sunsure Energy. Over to you, Mr. Sharma.
Thank you, Meenakshi. I have just started sharing my screen. I hope it is visible.
Yes, so your screen is visible.
Thank you. So at the very beginning, I would want to, thank the Net Zero Alliance for organizing this fantastic forum for discussing a very crucial technology transition that is now, very, very apparent, as Dev Malia's presentation showed, that, battery storage is at this stage an asset class that every renewable energy professional and adopter has to come to terms with, understand very well, or otherwise, risk very dire consequences. And this is not just for C&I, for every utility operator, for every, power producer and every policymaker today who's involved in driving the energy transition. Battery storage today is a technology which must be understood well and then be deployed with a lot of rationality. So in my presentation, I'm going to talk about why battery storage, or why energy storage for that matter, has become absolutely important today. So this is a chart that shows the energy demand that we saw on the maximum demand registered in FY25 in the last 12 months. This was June 9th, 2025, where you can see that during solar hours, we saw the highest demand. This was about 241 gigawatts, which then fell all the way up to 630, which is post solar hours, but then it starts to go up again. And at its peak, it is only about 10 gigawatts short of the peak demand that we experienced during the daytime. Now, what does this really tell us? So in the past, this demand curve in India has moved in various different forms and shapes, but over the last decade, we have seen an increasing trend in the daytime demand of power, and we believe that that is being done in tandem with the growing solar supply in the country. Solar being the cheapest source of power production, utilities have, and a lot of industries also have aligned their consumption during the day hours, pushing this peak upwards. And then again, evening demand has been growing because there are a lot of power electronics now, such as air conditioners, which come online the moment people get home. And even at this peak demand you'll see is somewhere between 10:30 and 11 o'clock in the night. Obviously this graph might go up and down, but more or less the shape remains the same, with this peak just fluctuating between, sometimes it is at about 6 p.m., 7 p.m., or sometimes you will also find it in the morning, around 7 to 9 a.m. That's during the winter times. So one reality that we have to understand is there is more than one peak on every day in India. And while we are able to meet the demand during one peak, which is during the solar hours, the other two peaks are left hanging. And that is why a lot of discoms end up relying on or end up signing up new coal, new thermal power, because this evening peak is the time when people are home and they don't want to see any load shedding. Um, in fact, even today, about 80% of evening load during peak hours is actually supported by thermal plants. So you can understand that, because this is the critical time to supply power, discoms end up signing up new thermal, and that new thermal naturally also takes over during the day hours, because once a thermal plant comes online, they have to run for 24 hours a day. They can't just be a spot correction during the evening. This is precisely where battery storage becomes a great technology, because you can simply switch on battery energy storage during the hours where you have peak demand, and you can charge it during the times where you have excess supply, which is, by the way, what is happening today during the day hours, because today almost 200 gigawatts of power will come from thermal or hydro or one of the other sources, and we have almost 120 130 gigawatts of solar pumping power into the grid, which ends up creating an excess supply situation during the daytime. So it makes great sense to use the excess power during the day, store it in a battery, and then use it to supply power during the evening peak, so that new thermal does not have to come online for discoms. So I call this first part of the problem, right? And how this part kind of comes in is, or how you end up, how this problem is actually getting more and more pronounced over the next years, is what we see in this graph, which we have drawn from the CEA website. So this year FY25 was exceptional. We were able to meet all the peak demand. There was no deficit because the demand actually remained flattish between FY24 and 25. Although going forward, the demand coming because of new data centers, because of adoption of electric vehicles, because of new infrastructure projects, smart cities coming online, this peak demand is expected to grow exponentially. And the deficit is also expected to grow exponentially. And what this is going to do is, if we don't bring online the right kind of battery storage, the right kind of grid stability technologies, it's going to result in a very unstable grid, which is going to hurt end users by, they'll end up experiencing a lot of interruptions. Coming to interruptions, this again is a graph that we've taken from CEA, or this data we've taken from CEA, which basically talks about which discoms in India today see the maximum number of interruptions of power and how those interruptions have a duration. For example, the worst hit are Eastern UP and Southern Haryana, where we see cumulative interruptions going to the tune of 180 to 200 hours in a year, which means, on average about 45 minutes every day. And the number of interruptions in Haryana, for example, is about 300 interruptions. Comparatively, UP has lower number of interruptions, but obviously they are very, very long in their duration. And we see this kind of a situation across a lot of states. You have Punjab, you have Rajasthan, Odisha, West Bengal, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, even Maharashtra and Telangana have significant number of interruptions at about 25 to 30 interruptions every year. By the way, in developed nations, it is less than one interruption in a year. Whereas in India, urban areas have about 202 average interruptions in a year. So this again creates a case today for behind the meter battery storage systems, which are smaller systems, but will come in and play a big role in displacing existing diesel generator based dependence in industries and also in households and commercial spaces. So as Devmalia pointed out, the battery storage technology is being championed first of all by the utility sector. That has always been the case, even with solar, even with wind. The utilities have been the first one to enable an industry to find its feet, to enable the industry to find bankable commercial models. And in this regard, there are primarily three kinds of BESS deployments. There is the FDRE, there is solar plus BESS, and there is standalone BESS. All three of them have found a lot of favor with all stakeholders in the industry. And we believe that all these three are already finding a lot of place in the C&I space as well. So these are precisely the three kind of structures which the C&I sector is also adopting. And Sunsure is very fortunate to be on the cutting edge of this transition, and we have already been done all of this in the utility sector, and we are now also bringing that to the C&I customers that we work with on both interstate and intrastate supply of power. I want to go into a few case studies of how battery storage helps in each of the three things that I have pointed out. For example, this one is a case which is very close to anyone who is using solar in Maharashtra. So in Maharashtra, the government has recently been contemplating an order which basically leads to a position where this excess power that you see on the graph in the left in TOD3, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., this will start lapsing because banking of power is now no longer allowed in Maharashtra, or that it could be the case. Case is still sub judice, but this is something which is possible. So in this case, so this is a customer which has about 8 megawatts of running demand 24/7. They had tied up about a 14 megawatt AC solar power plant, which is quite normal in Maharashtra. But now they are in a position where they will end up lapsing. In the previous MYT, they would not lapse any power, save about 8.7 crores rupees per annum. But with this slight change in regulation, they end up lapsing about 24% of their energy, and their annual savings falls down abysmally and almost gets annihilated. But just with a simple addition of battery storage, wherein you use this power between 9 to 5 to charge the BESS and then deliver it between 5 to 12, which is the highest power pricing bracket. Power over here costs about 12 to 13 rupees per unit for industries. The saving can come back from 0.30 to about 6.1 crores, and lapse can be reduced to less than 1%. So installing batteries for creating solar plus BESS solutions which are resilient to changes in regulatory provisions such as banking is a very, very powerful model to work with. We are already doing something like this in Maharashtra. On the diesel replacement, anyone who has a large capex solar power plant behind the meter, for DG replacement, if in Goa, for example, we were working with a customer, there was a lot of interruption, and they were using almost 50% of their power in the evening hours through diesel generators. Instead of diesel generators, which is costing them about 30 rupees per unit, if we simply install a battery which can charge during the night time from 11 to 7 a.m. when the power is cheaper, and discharge during this time in a day, even for a single cycle, they end up saving more than 50% on the price of the expense that they make on diesel generators, and this can also be availed for other uses as well. In fact, power quality also improves, which goes on to improve the quality of production. So diesel replacement by standalone BESS already is a very established business case. I'm sure the people on the panel will also talk about this. Then lastly, if you have a rooftop solar power plant, which is in CapEx, you have already been, broken even on your cost over there. Your power is almost free, but now you want to adopt open access. For you as well, a standalone behind the meter BESS plant would be very, very useful. You can simply spend all your rooftop solar generation into charging battery storage so that your daytime consumption between 9 to 5 opens up and you can start taking open access power. This is a very, very powerful case, and it not only does it improve the savings that you get from your rooftop solar, but it also will enable you to go to a much higher percentage of renewable energy adoption by making a mix of rooftop and open access solar. So that's it on about battery storage. Now I'll just spend a minute on talking about Sunshore. So we are a company, we started in 2014. We have corporate decarbonization at the core of our DNA. Today, we are one of the most capitalized renewable energy companies in India and are a full stack IPP. We do everything, all kinds of solutions which enable round the clock renewable energy for utilities and industries both. Have about 1.5 gigawatt of operational and under construction capacity, over 7 gigawatts of plants under development. We work across the country on both intrastate and interstate models, delivering solar, wind, and battery storage at scale to large-scale power users. We have enabled multiple customers to go up to 80% of renewable energy. And on battery storage, we currently have about 1.4 gigawatt hours of BESS under construction. This is largely solar and BESS, and then FDRE. And then we have, like Demalya also pointed out, a 500 megawatt hour standalone BESS project coming up in UP to supply uninterrupted supply to UP PCL during the 4 peak hours, anywhere from 6 p.m. to 10 a.m. And we will be charging this power using a dedicated solar plant that we will set up in UP. And it will be a very exciting mix of working with the market as well as our own generation to meet a critical problem in UP's peak power supply chain paradigm. So with that, I would want to thank you everyone for being part of this and looking forward to the discussion on the panel. Thank you, Meenakshi.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma, for that highly informative and thought-provoking presentation. Now, I would like to launch our poll number 2. So I request the audience to pitch in their answers. Our poll number 2 is live now. And while the poll is live, I would like to move on to today's session, our panel discussion. Just a quick reminder, we will also have a live Q&A session at the end. So feel free to share your questions in the Q&A box anytime during the panel discussion session. They will be addressed by our panelists at the end of the panel discussion. Now, I would like to move on to the panel discussion, which is how C&I Power leaders can unlock round-the-clock clean energy with BESS. We are privileged to join an exceptional lineup of speakers. We have with us Mr. Demalya Sen, Mr. Ayush Mishra, Mr. Kartikeya Sharma, Mr. Lokesh Chandra, Mr. Sameer Darsh, and Mr. Ritu and Mr. Abhishek Kumar. Now, I would like to hand over the session to our moderator.
Thank you, Meenakshi. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for this webinar. We have esteemed experts on the panel who will be sharing the critical insights and also telling us about the enabling action that can help to turn the round-the-clock renewable energy vision into reality for C&I sector with the help of BESS. I would like to thank Mr. Dev Malya and Mr. Kartike for sharing the important insights. As discussed, India's C&I sector has vast decarbonization potential
Dr.
due to high.
Praveen,
Yeah,
so just before we begin the panel, I would just request my team to play a short video and then we'll proceed with our panel discussion.
sure, please.
Power drives the Indian industry. Yet, 70% of this energy is still generated from coal, increasing both energy expenses and the carbon footprint of your business. But you can now turn this around and move to 70% clean energy in just 6 months. Choose a sustainable future for your business with Sunsure, one of India's largest clean power producers, with our round-the-clock power supply to facilities of all sizes across the country. And yes, with this switch, cut down your power costs for the next 25 years. Make your power move with Sunsure. Sunsure, making India's power move.
Thank you, team. Over to you, Dr. Praveen.
Thank you, Meenakshi. So, as I was telling earlier, that in the C&I sector, we have a very vast potential to decarbonize this sector and reduce the emissions. And here, the renewable energy is going to play a major role. But issue here is that how you handle the issue of intermittencies. And if you pair the renewable energy with which this can help and enable the round-the-clock clean energy by storing surplus energy from the solar and wind for peak demand. This ensures reliability, cost, and help in cost optimization and sustainability alignment. While falling battery prices and the corporate net zero targets drive adoption, we need to think of the challenges such as high capital costs, life cycle uncertainties, and evolving regulation that require a very clear policy direction and financing support and innovation to scale at the large scale, especially when we are talking about the innovation, that we need innovation at the business model, innovation at the technology level to address the challenges. So we have esteemed experts with us, and let us understand from them. And we'll start with Mr. Lokesh Chandra. So Lokesh ji, as in both the presentation from Mr. Dev Malya and Mr. Kartike, they have highlighted the importance of BESS for getting a very reliable clean power. I just want to would like to understand from you that how essential you see BESS in enabling the round-the-clock clean power for C&I sector, or meeting peak demand with the green power and reducing dependence on brown power and optimizing your cost savings. As in the presentation from Mr. Kartike, it was mentioned about the supply interruptions due to the mismatch in the supply and demand. Then there was a discussion about the power quality. So how you see the BESS as a critical component in ensuring the round-the-clock clean energy from renewable, and also addressing the issue of supply disruptions or the power quality issues. Over to you, Mr. Lokesh.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. It is pleasure to be here. I represent the C&I consumer like cement industry, where energy reliability and cost efficiency are absolutely critical. Today, I would like to share why BESS are not just a useful, but essential in helping commercial and industrial consumers, especially cement plant, to achieve renewable energy round the clock vision. Let's start with the core challenges. What we are facing like a consumer, C&I consumer in cement industries. Cement manufacturing is a continuous process. We run 24/7 and our energy demand is not just high, it's consistent. C&I consumer are increasingly commanded to sustainability, but renewable energy sources like solar, wind are intermittent by nature. This intermittency creates a gap between generation and consumption, especially during non-solar hours and periods of low wind generation. We are talking about a future where clean energy is available 24 into 7, not just when the sun shines on the and wind blows. And BESS is the technology that makes the future possible. This is where BESS become essential. The way the storage cost is coming down. Earlier, we are talking about 1.5, 1.6 crore rupees per megawatt hour. Nowadays, less than 1 crore per megawatt hour. The more attractive this solution is becoming, and this is a critical solution because we can save the excess generation from solar during the day hours, store into the storage, and utilize in the evening when the peak hours. Very attractive solution to mitigate our peak hours requirement. It's not a cost of priority as of now, except in some state, in some situation, and now affect the central government, and in some state government are mandating that you should definitely have some percentage of your solar with solar and wind solution has base solutions. The capabilities is the backbone of the RTC model, ensuring clean energy is available 24 into 7. Now let's talk about the peak demand. In CI facilities often experience peak loads during early morning or evening times when renewable generators may be low. BESS enables firm energy power delivery during these critical hours, helping businesses avoid costly peak tariffs and reduce their carbon footprint simultaneously. Third is reducing dependency on brown power. Without storage, any shortfall in renewable supply is typically met by fossil-based grid power. BESS minimize this reliance by acting as a buffer, allowing consumer to stay aligned with their sustainability goals while maintaining operational reliability. And finally, cost optimization. BESS enables load shifting, charging during low tariff periods and discharging during high tariff periods. Also mentioned in Deep sir and Kartikeya sir presentation, we can charge and discharge in low tariff hours and discharge during the peak hours. It also helps avoid peak demand charges and can participate in grid services like frequency regulations, creating additional revenue streams. So it's not just a sustainability tool, it's a financial assets. To conclude, BESS is the bridge between renewable ambitions and industrial reality. For C&I consumer like cement plant and other C&I consumer, it ensures clean energy is available around the clock, helps manage peak demand, reduces dependency on fossil fuels, and deliver real cost savings. With supportive policy like those in Rajasthan, the path of RTC renewable energy is not just viable, it's a strategy. BESS is no longer a choice, it's a necessary for a sustainable and competitive industrial futures. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lokesh, for sharing your insights on this. Let's go and understand from Mr. Samir Das. He also comes from the industry. So let's hear from him that Mr. Lokesh explained that how important is the BESS for not only getting the reliable renewable energy powers, but also in meeting the peak demand and also on the cost saving optimizations. We would like to understand that what kind of strategic interventions you think can accelerate the BESS adoption to realize this vision of round the clock clean energy power, and particularly in industrial estates where like we have the industrial clusters, and how we address like in Mr. Dev Malya, he mentioned in his presentation about the status of the value chain. So how we address the techno-commercial uncertainties and also highlight and share the benefit to drive this widespread uptake of this. BESS powered renewable energy?
Thank you, Dr. Praveen. So first of all, I would like to thank the organizers, Net Zero Alliance, sponsored by Sunsure, the platform to give me an opportunity to participate in this session and speak out something. I would like to first go and give some prospect. I mean, if I start with Hindalco, I don't think it needs a lot of introduction. So it spans from mining to refinery, then aluminum smelters, and we house around something 3.5 gigawatt of thermal power plants, and it is across 25 units. And today we are one of the, I mean, we consume a good chunk of energy. Our electricity consumption is something around 1.2% of the total all India energy consumption last financial year. So that speaks about the energy intensity and the energy requirement. I mean, I talk only electricity. Other than that, there would be some other fossil fuels also directly fed. So there are pressures like this CBAM, this cross-border adjustment mechanism tax is coming. We have a pressure. We have also a place for decarbonization. And one thing we would say that, I would say that this RTC right now, the topic is on discussions. There are various tenders are going on. This was being conceptualized by Hindalco. I mean, 3 years back, we have something large capacity of RTC is there under contract. They have started operating with PSPs. We have started operating that. So, I mean, I would like to put forth the challenges, regulatory challenges, operational challenges. Also, at the same time, also we have taken steps for pilot scale batteries when we are also doing a small flow cell batteries also. So I would like to right now come to your question directly. I mean, what are the right now the challenges? What are the right now things what we would need strategic intervention? See, right now, as we migrate, as we move on from large fossil fuel based electricity to renewable, which is the need of the hour, we have taken a step for migrating all our large smelters to go into a 400 kV system, because unless we have a right platform, right backbone, we can't source the power from REV states. Suppose we have smelters in Odisha, in Madhya Pradesh, in Uttar Pradesh, there is no renewables. So we have to source it from Gujarat, Rajasthan, Karnataka, southern states. So that we are moving out. Here, one thing is that right now, when these large industries like aluminum smelters, steel plants, when they move to 400 kV system, one thing very important for aluminum smelter is that any power disruption more than 4 hours, it is catastrophic. It starts the smelters for 6 to 7 months, few years, including large capex. So right now, if you are connected with a single source of supply, even it at 400 kV, it cannot be 100% 24/7. So there are regulatory hurdles about dual connectivity, not connectivity from one more source. Though CA has a plan, gives some leverage for double connectivity for smelters, railways, etc. So there, some amount of more clarity has to come. It has to be very sensitive to industrial consumers to have multiple sources of power, so that they can at least source this renewable power, solar, wind, battery from other sources, and decarbonize it. For making RERTC, you have to source it from far different states. So that would be one of the point where more and more strategic thinking of the policymakers would be coming in. And today also we are seeing in the early phase, there are renewable energy pockets where there are intermittents. I mean, there are the ISTS system today, there are some delays in some elements, which is leading to curtailment of renewable power, where of course the BSS will help sometime, but it cannot export power. So there also some strategic thinking would develop out. Then we are right now fascinated. Also, we are looking at very, I mean, how many 2 years, 2.5 years, we have seen the price plummeting like anything. But we have to see a lot of quality installations also coming in. For example, I mean, we have to have very high standards of quality, safety standards, because some of the energy storage systems we are also contemplating that they will be behind the meter. So we know the safety risk. We know, I mean, we hear about the intensity of lithium-ion fire, how difficult, how manageable it is. So some kind of very good supply chain based quality standards, safety standards. So that has to come in, and our focus, while India is a very price sensitive market, we should not defocus or we should not take any shortcuts in making some compromises on the quality and safety. So those things has to play a very vital role, because behind the meter, putting something in very high tech plant in a compact this thing, nobody can afford it. And I mean, that kind of confidence has to emerge out in the market. So that would be one point I would like to say the I mean August panelist also, where they must be doing on that. And today also, if you look at the solar PV models, when we started something 2010, 2009, there were degradations, there were something insurance. So here in the battery also, since we are dependent on the Chinese suppliers mostly, so I would like to say some kind of third-party insurance where, like Munich insurance, if that battery company goes bankrupt or insolvency or whatever, then there has to be a third party which has to give a, I mean, insurance is a safety comfort. Some kind of safety net that also has to be worked out. And so that's the thing. And we are cognizant of a subject. When I looked at it 3 years back, somebody told me that noontime power is going to be zero. I mean, right now it's very close. So the BSS, the battery energy storage, has to come in. And last point, what I would like to say, there are regulatory issues on in ISTS connected battery energy storage system or PSP storage system, regarding scheduling, regarding applicability of the transmission waivers. We struggled when we had to start some RTC. So there are a lot of clarity issues, procedural issues. How do you, I mean, if the power is you use for warehousing in the PSP or storage, how it will be treated, plus subsidy. So there are still teething issues are there. We have to be very clear, and I mean the regulatory policymakers have to give a very clear message. Then it will also propel the drive for implementing the BSS to the scale. I mean, the implementation right now, we are hardly, as Devamalya said, something 0.5 gigawatt hour, where China is something 200 gigawatt hour installed. So we have to swing into that motion of execution, putting the framework in place. So the right integration and RERTC comes in place, and in real terms, it displays the fossil fuel. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Samirji. You have highlighted very important and critical points, especially related to the safety standards and cost versus quality, and some kind of safety net through the third party insurance. So let's hear from, we'll go now to Mr. Kartike, who is, we'll ask this question to him. So Kartikeji, you have heard Samirji, he has highlighted the issue that if we have to transfer the clean power from one state to another state, the kind of issues are there. And then talking about cost versus quality and the third party insurance. So my question to you, can you just highlight that what kind of policy and regulatory things are enabling this transition, where we are aiming to get the round the clock clean power from the renewable, and what are the key gaps you see on the policy, regulation and standards from your perspective that is hindering the growth in this sector? And from your experience and your installation, what kind of lesson we can draw? Or maybe we have seen the several installation at the utility level, that is there any lesson we can draw from there, from the leading states, and that can be shared with the wide level, so that people can understand clearly about the enabling actions. Over to you, Mr. Karthik.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Praveen. And I want to start out by first thanking Mr. Samir Das for being part of this session and bringing such important points. Hindalco being probably, like he said, the first adopter in C&I of round the clock PPA, and it's not just some ordinary round the clock PPA. It's a PPA which I understand requires the developer to deliver at least 50% CUF at a 15-minute time block level, and it's an intricate mix of solar, wind, and pump storage. I don't know if the power has already started, but I do know, right, that regulatory challenges are as much a part of renewable energy adoption and as well as renewable energy production as is the supply chain in our business. It is a very active risk that we evaluate, and whenever we are doing anything, we specifically plan policy advocacy as part of what we are trying to do. For example, this standalone battery storage project that we have won in Uttar Pradesh that we'll be supplying power to. There is still, on the edges of that problem, there are still gray areas as to how exactly will power be, delivered to the BESS, from BESS to UPPCL, under what kind of regulations will that happen. You generally only get about a 85 to 90% clear picture as to how things will work, and then 10% you have to leave to the kindness of the policymakers and the regulators, and your own ability to kind of go out and bring a lot of stakeholders, concerned stakeholders, on the same page with regards to what you're trying to do. The good news is that it works, and a lot of changes today, especially on the ISTS front. I would say that when you are somebody who's trying to do a lot of power across different states, every state in India has their own problem, solutions, constraints. So but if you're doing ISTS, the way the CTU, the way the CEA, and the way that CERC approach these problems, the kind of audience you get from those bodies with respect to your issues is actually phenomenal. And we see that, since the GNA came for the first time in 2021, every year they have, taken out an amendment, and progressively they have been resolving issues one by one for, industries. But it is, part and parcel. It is very hard to say that, we will not face regulatory challenges when we are trying to adopt renewable energy in a big way. Now, having said that, with respect to storage, there are certain regulatory provisions that are very, very welcome, right? For example, if you are a captive user of power, for example, in fact, I think Hindalco's example is a good example in this regard. They would be using this as a captive user. And while captive user has to hold equity in the generating asset, the regulations are very clear that you don't have to hold equity in the storage asset, right? So you can simply, once you generate an electron which is coming from a captive generation plant, it can go and sit in a storage asset and then come out of it still being a captive asset, captive electron, right? Captive power, which solves a lot of problems, right? Saves a lot of money, saves a lot of rework. Another thing is that, battery storage is not charged CTU charges, right, on its consumption of power or its, generation of power, especially when it is co-located with solar. Now that this is something which benefits battery storage more than it maybe benefits pump storage, because battery storage generally is co-located with solar in most of these ISTS kind of configurations. But if you think about it, it creates a very, very strong case to have a solar plus BESS plant which can generate part of its revenue from actually arbitrage either in the open market or with specific contracts. So those are a few regulatory things that have already been done by the government. Now, one big challenge, Dr. Kumar, I would say is there is no battery storage which is actually installed and operating in India today. There is hardly any, right? And like anything else, regulations also learn from operations. So as operations of battery storage begin in India, new kinds of problems will come to the fore, and the regulators, I truly believe, will take notice. The developers and the consumers also have to work together. Um through alliances, for example, the India Energy Storage Alliance is a fantastic forum which can help structure these issues across different stakeholders and then take it to the right authorities so that they can be addressed in a structured manner. So I think that journey is still to start. As once we reach 1 gigawatt hour of storage, then we will reach 10 gigawatt hour of storage, then we'll reach 100 gigawatt hour storage. And that is when the real learning will start. Today, the way we look at battery storage, we look at it, for example, from a peak shaving perspective. We look at it from a backup perspective. But if you look at more developed economies, they look at it as an alternate to transmission infrastructure. For example, in a country like the US, it's so difficult and so expensive to draw transmission lines that they rather put, battery storage closer to, generation centers and or somewhere in the middle between generation and consumption centers, so that they don't have to build those kind of transmission infrastructure. I think India today is struggling big time with building transmission infrastructure, and battery storage will have a wider role to play in that regard. So with that, I think I would rest my answer to your question. If there is anything that I've left unanswered, please let me know, or you can come back to me.
No, just one additional question I have. Like we have seen that some states are doing very well on this front, and then there are a set of actions are going at the national level. Do you see the opportunity that we need to have some kind of at least a common framework or the learning document that can the new states or any other state who want to scale in this field can take lesson from that, and they don't need to reinvent the wheel? So do you see the role of creating some kind of sync or having some national level guidance document for to guide the policy, regulation, or implementation support at the state level?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's absolutely important. And I believe that there are documents that exist, there are guidelines that exist that, bodies like CEA and, even CERC has, brought out, which discoms, which, states are using. But having said that, having been working in this sector for the last 12 years now, I feel that, having one ring to rule them all, or one act, or one set of guidelines or regulations to rule all states and the way they kind of function is more and more to me seeming like the holy grail of our sector. And it's hard to find. It's hard to find. People have tried, governments have tried, but I guess there will be one day that when we will, at least for some part of the renewable energy sector, if not battery storage, even if they can do that for solar, I think a lot of the users and the producers will be very happy.
Yeah, thank you. And unlike the EV sector where we have the lithium variant like LFP and NMC ruling the market, in case of BESS, we have an opportunity to explore the other technology because we don't have the kind of limitation you have in the e-mobility. So along with the lithium battery, then you have the flow batteries and the few others, and that can be explored. So we'll ask this question to Mr. Ayush, but let's go to Mr. Dev Malya. Mr. Dev Malya, we have just heard the views from industry as well as from Mr. Kartikeya, and one of the things is coming out very promptly that although we are very positive about the best supported round the clock round the clock clean energy for the C&I sector, but still a lot need to be done. And what do you think we can learn from the utility scale energy storage model that is evolving in our country? And also, do you see that some of the states who are driving the adoption of BESS can set as some kind of lesson for the other states or industry to adopt the best practices, and that can help in transforming our existing power procurement models and develop better corporate strategy in next coming 5 to 10 years?
Thank you, Dr. Praveen. So yes, some of the states have taken steps, right? Rajasthan, we already heard that captive capacity. So that is a mandate that Rajasthan has put in, right? And similarly, now Kerala and Tamil Nadu, one of the two, Kerala or Tamil Nadu, has come up with an amendment to the document, right? So I think that the key states that are moving forward are Rajasthan, Gujarat, and who else? Maharashtra. So these are the key states. Now Maharashtra, this banking thing needs to be seen how it flows out. But I think that banking is anyways would kind of go away by another 2 years or another 3 years. If we have to listen to what High Court says, but then if the judgment is like that, then so we have to move away from banking. That is one say. Now the thing is that if for CNI players from day one, you need not go 100%. RE, right? You can go a particular percentage and then have a roadmap, a sustainable roadmap, how I can go to 100% RE. And that is where we have seen that initially the discussions were like, okay, I will go 50% through RE and 50% through Dishcom. Now that 50% through Dishcom is reducing and battery is coming into that. So they are saying that, okay, let me go 70% through RE plus storage and rest I will take from Dishcom on market purchase. So that is, in my sense, that works better. You get a essence of the game also, you enter the game also, but you don't enter the game as if to replace the total thing on day one. So a particular roadmap through which you can travel the journey is much better. And that said, I suppose the other point here is the existing solar parks. So solar installations that we have, right? There is discussion going on if we can also cater to the requirement of existing solar retrofitted with batteries. So that is that is becoming a necessity today because of problems that developers are facing, like DSM penalties and forecasting and scheduling. So all these things, reactive power, so all these things included, I think CNI can move this thread in a phase-wise manner rather than doing everything on day one.
Thank you, Mr. Demalya. I have two questions. One from your presentation that you mentioned about 2.5% battery degradation. And if we just assume that in the best lithium variant, especially like right now, only mainly these two options are dominating the market, that is LFP and NMC. And degradation is one of the biggest challenge for the BESS, you know that because these chemistries are very temperature sensitive. And we are talking about the state like Rajasthan, or maybe like we are having a tropical environment condition. So how big threat you see is managing the degradation rate 2.5 or less? Do you think 2.5 will ensure the economic viability, positive economic viability, or do you see the challenge? Or if you just see these two
Yeah.
aspects, so do you see any kind of like supply chain issue you mentioned? So do you see that other alternatives like flow batteries or any other solution can come as in a solution, come as an alternative for energy storage? along with the renewable, especially with the C&I, where they need to manage not only the peak load, they want to handle the intermittent nature of the renewables as well as the power quality improvement.
Thank you. So, Tupa, I read through the question answers, and someone posted that MSCDCL has pointed to 0% degradation in the tender. So, how will you manage it? We have seen this 2.5% coming down to 2% in RRVU and tender, and then almost removed in MSCDCL tender. Now, we have to understand this is battery, this is chemistry. It won't be a straight line, right? That 2% every year, it won't be that, right? So we have seen our mobile phones, for example, very similar model, but then the amount of degradation has to be on an average, you can look into for 2.5%, but it can be lesser in initial years and higher in later years. So that is the point. Now, what you need to do is go in with augmentation and thereby look into where you find your sweet spot. Now, the problem that we are facing today is that everything is on Excel models. We are modeling everything on Excel models, and we have not seen what happens in these batteries after 5 years. Will they perform at 2.5% or will they not? Second thing, which we often neglect, is the auxiliary consumption. Now, you said about that Rajasthan, we are installing in Rajasthan and Gujarat. Now, auxiliary consumption is amounting to is a huge part in your cost, right? And so that has to be accounted for. Now, you have to manage auxiliary as well as your degradation together in long run. So I think that yes, it won't be a straight line for sure, but your augmentation will define how much you need over the time. Now, whether other chemistries are liable to take charge, we are forgetting that lithium ion, LFP, let's not talk about NMC, let's talk only about LFP in stationary storage. LFP itself is going through its own innovation journey, right? Today, we are talking about a new variant of LFP known as LMFP, okay? And we have seen cycle life increasing. We have seen cell sizes increasing. We are talking of 314 milliamp cell. People have gone ahead and announced 1175 milliamp cells. Okay. Now, cycle life is going to, we were talking about 8,000 earlier this year. Today, we are talking of 15,000 to 20,000 cycles for lithium ion cells. So, you are competing with someone who is innovating day in, day out. So it becomes very difficult for someone like a sodium ion or for someone like a vanadium flow to compete with this chemistry, right? And sodium ion, the value still sticks up because it is applicable in EVs also. So it will get its economies of scale much higher, earlier than vanadium flow, which is only finding application in stationary storage applications. So without a support from government for these technologies, it is looking very difficult.
Yeah, thank you. For the benefit of audience, I'll just share 2 lines on the degradation thing. So when we talk about the degradation in lithium batteries, that is mainly governed by the 2 mechanisms. One we know as a calendar aging that happens when you charge the battery. If you have a fully charged battery and if your temperature is not in optimum range, there will be high rate of degradation that we call as a calendar aging. Next, the other type of aging is known as cyclic aging. When you are charging, discharging the battery, that time the degradation, whatever happens, that is known as the cyclic aging. And it's very critical to maintain an optimum temperature for the lithium battery to ensure the reasonable life from the installation. Now let's thank you, Demalya. Now I will go to Mr. Abhishek Kumar Jha, and now we have discussed about the installation. Now to Abhishek ji, I have a question that what kind of innovative business models or the collaborative frameworks or financing mechanism can help adoption of BESS supported RE in C&I sector, and In the beginning, there was a question around the third-party insurance. We have a safety net. So it will be great if you can share your insight on that. Over to you, Mr. Abhishek.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar. First of all, let's talk about the topic. This is the wherein we are discussing about the adoption of battery or BESS by the C&I consumer. So why it is required? First of all, let's discuss about it. Because C&I category basically consume roughly 50% of international generation, right? And how renewable they are consuming roughly or 10% directly, not through the discom. So now they are since last 2 years, the solar installation, especially the solar installation, they are increasing like anything. They contribute roughly 20% last year solar installation. And why we are talking about storage? Because there is availability of cheaper power. Define cheaper power because there is excess generation during certain of the day. That can be possible. Last 18 months, India has installed roughly 41 gigawatt of solar, and the daytime generation is shooting off because the entire roughly 123 gigawatt of installation is there from solar. The entire generation is coming from early in the morning, and it goes to peak 10 to 2, and then slowly lower the generation. Now, why the tariff has been reduced during solar generation hour? Because there is excess generation. There is no demand during those hours, roughly 10 to 2. Then everyone think about let's store this power, right? So how it at the consumption point or the generation point or at centrally located point, right? So there are different models. As Kartike also highlighted, behind the meter or ISTS connected best storage or just like a group captive model, single providing for 2, 3 or n number of consumers. So there are different kind of models depending on how is the consumer requirement. If you have a facility located in multiple locations, different states, and you are connected with ISTS directly or through discoms, you can avail, you can like implement single best at level, and you can store the power or your own unit. Then you can like same during the higher price availability your own so that you can smoothen or come it can benefit your net cost of electricity at low cost. First of all, let's talk about it's basically the CNI or RPO where you guys or CNI the customer need to adopt in it. It's
Abhishek ji, if I
basically
can just intervene,
only
your voice is breaking. Can you try switching off your video?
so I think CNI category consumer need to they are always into how much they can save from the electricity from other source. So the RE adoption is one of the major thing, wherein now from last 2 3 years they are saving money also, and with BESS now they can migrate to portion of their consumption from RE, that too at a lower cost. Like optimal utilization can be achieved if we adopt both sides, like family lopez as depend on the requirement. The consumer needs to replace the DG set, or they also want to lower their cost frontally located bed. It depend upon type of uses, and voltage level they are connected with. Regarding finance mechanism, FDRE projects are financially closed, and BESS is not new. BESS is already implemented across the globe, And in FDRE, most of the FDRE now more towards BESS and solar combination. And all bankable projects are like lenders are keen to fund those projects. With storage, C&I consumer, I think, can replace the maximum portion of their consumption with RE. And government has already, as highlighted by earlier panelists, the government has given like every 2 or 3 months, they are coming up with some kind of incentive or some kind of clarification or new guideline regarding the storage. If we talk about connectivity, now there are different kind of connectivity, storage connectivity, uh, solar connectivity, non-solar connectivity. It's enable these connectivity from existing available substations also. And even if we think the currently available RE capacity can adopt BESS and they can reduce their DSM cost. So storage has immense, like not only C&I, each and every player need to now install, even thermal generators are now thinking about installation of BESS, because storage now is a new oil. You can use it as when required. So I think financing is not a challenge. Technology, because it's evolving. So we are now getting more number of cycles from the same suppliers. And regarding the government support, government has come up with various kind of incentive, including VGF and all. So state government are also implementing large volume of BESS. So I think within a year or two, we can see a significant volume of BESS to be installed in India. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Abhishek. Coming to you, Mr. Ayush, I have question related to the technology. When we are talking about the BESS, and as we saw in the presentation from Mr. Dev Malya, that when we talk about the BESS, we are not talking only about the cells. We have the other components in that setup. So what kind of technology barrier you see that can hinder the adoption of BESS-based PPAs in the C&I sector? And do you think that, or maybe suggestions about the innovation that can address these issues in future? And based on your experience, do you have any insight on that? What kind of optimum technology solutions that one can think of where you can manage your both technical and financial risk for this BESS-based RE-RTC projects? Over to you, Mr. Ayush.
Thanks, Praveen. I must confess that speaking after such knowledgeable speakers, most of the things are already covered. And to be honest, like I've learned a lot myself on this webinar. Maybe to give a little bit of context about like where I'm coming from, I'd just like to take a minute to first introduce myself personally as well as our company Ampere. So I started my career straight out of college with a solar developer. We would do solar PPAs with corporate clients. So I've dealt with the setup of C&I customers in terms of the different avenues through which they can procure power, how different loads are, the different types of industries and their needs in terms of power requirements. Post that entire experience, we started Ampere about around like 8-9 years ago, right? And we are a storage only company. We don't do anything outside of storage. So by the virtue of starting that early, we have had a little bit of experience on different types of applications of storage, different use cases that we have been able to build out. And this has been on both ahead of meter, behind the meter, on the ahead of meter side, where we've already executed projects on the field wherein you have solar plus storage, both in the form of AC coupling and DC coupling, and the pros and cons of both of those. We are currently executing a 360 megawatt hour connected to the transmission substation, where I think Karthikeya touched upon it, where these storage assets are going to become part of the transmission network, where you increase the capacity utilization of transmission substations that might be getting built out. We have recently commissioned a 40 megawatt hour in Delhi that is part of the distribution network of Delhi with BRPL, BSES Rajdhani. And we see how that system is being used. Now it's been about 6 months that it has been operational. It is one of the first regulated BESS in the country, and that model in terms of how is the revenue getting generated, what is the degradation that you touched upon, how is that coming along, all of those inputs are now getting validated. And we are quite confident that you're going to see a lot of BESS come up ahead of meter, right, through tendering process. And I think Deb Malia has already touched upon a lot of that in terms of the scale up. We are quite confident that that will keep happening because the use cases are getting built out on that side of the meter. Specifically on the C&I side, we have done some behind the meter projects already, about 3-5 megawatt hour for various types of clients. Our experience with C&I has been that there is no single use case for every C&I industry. To give you some examples, we worked with a bottling plant where their requirement was very specific. They wanted something that could provide uninterrupted power, and they were looking for a 1 hour solution. Right now, 90% of commercially available products, battery products in the market, will not be able to qualify for this particular requirement because most of the cells are not built for 1C. A lot of the mass manufacturing is happening for 0.5 or 0.25, like a 2 hour battery or a 4 hour battery. You need a different type of battery to be able to do a 1 hour solution, which is a lot more expensive and so on. At the same time, the system, when you design it, the power electronics that you use, depending on whether you want a 0 millisecond transfer time or whether you want a 200 milli, depending on your application, the power electronics itself changes. So at the C&I level, and the first thing to do is kind of like understand what the use case is. What are you trying to achieve with the BESS? Then design the system based on what has to be, what is the use case for, which itself is a deeply technological. That is a deeply technical exercise. The last thing that I also want to touch upon is that batteries by themselves are pretty dumb devices. It requires a pretty sophisticated control system to be able to derive value out of it, which is fundamentally, I think, based on the diagram that Deb Malia had shown, which touches upon the EMS layer, the controls layer of the batteries. And without an intelligent EMS,
Yeah, please go ahead. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, I got muted. Without a sophisticated software, the battery by itself will not be able to generate the same revenue or value that you have envisaged. And there's very few people who have been able to develop this entire software platform in-house. I personally think, I'm of the opinion that without the software being in-house, it's very difficult to operate the BESS asset. And I think somebody had posted a question on the EMS layer being indigenous as well, being mandated by CEA. Well, that has to do with some of the cybersecurity norms. Also, these are controllable devices. You don't want them to be hacked as well. Now, at Ampere, we are a specialist in the EMS layer as well, and we have a lot of experience doing all of that. One last thing that I'll maybe touch upon, and I think this was already touched upon on the safety side of the batteries. Now, as we go along, this is still an evolving field. I think the safety aspect of the batteries have gotten a lot better over time with us moving from NMC to LFP. And I think as we go along, it will get safer as we go along. The only thing you want to not do is basically go very cheap in your first project till the technology is mature enough where it gets commoditized and so on. So do lay out emphasis and value on that safety aspect, because in cost cutting, the first thing that typically goes is not the battery itself, it's the protection and the safety circuits. So you want to have sufficient buffer and margin that in the price that you're paying to be able to have the safety aspect already baked into your designs. I'll halt here.
Yeah, thank you, Ayush. Sameerji has raised the point of this safety aspect, and then he mentioned about the cost versus quality. And this is a genuine question because India is a price sensitive market, and the kind of costing we are seeing in the tenders. So this is the obvious question comes in the mind that what about safety? Because in case of lithium battery, you need to have a very zero tolerance, because we all understand that if thermal runaway kicks in, then everything, you can't stop that. That will, so my question to you that how well prepared we are and how deep the safety, the quality and safety net thing is there in the mind of the players who are developing the BESS or developing the setup for the C&I sector.
See, we've been in business now long enough to have seen all sorts of project cycles, and everything that can go wrong has already gone wrong, right? Like, so we've learned through all of those things. And to me, as a as the management professional of a battery company, it's probably the number one thing that keeps me awake at night. That there shouldn't be a fire incident at any of the sites where we are putting these batteries. Now, the honest reality of the situation is we don't have cell manufacturing happening in India. The cells are fundamentally coming from China. They are getting better, right? So LFP fundamentally is a more stable electrochemistry than what we had with NMC. But is the probability of fire zero? No. Like, you can still have short circuiting, you can still have various points in that entire system where there are faults that are completely possible, and you are dealing with electronic circuits, even transformers, inverters, they catch fire. So when you design a system, you do the best that you can. If it goes bad, you design the fire systems in a manner that are able to deal with it, and you design them as per industry norms. Those are from an engineering standpoint. What is in your control, you try to do as best you can. When the unfortunate truth is, when we are dealing with reverse auctions, and very often even with C&I customers, sometimes the conversation begins with price, and as I mentioned earlier, like, I think the reality is that in India we don't lay out enough value to safety. We just look at levelized cost of storage, and those are the numbers that Excel models don't translate to real projects on the field. So on the safety side, like, that's my only thing. Hopefully, these projects that we are seeing at whatever value that they're getting bid out will be designed as per industry norms. Hopefully, battery cells will be safe as well as we go along.
Yeah, thank you, Ayush. Sameerji, before I come to you, I just want to get the comment from Mr. Ritu on the financing roadmap and the innovative business model that can help the scaling BESS adoption in C&I sector, and how can financier build confidence to drive the wider RERTC deployment, and which banking and regulatory risks need to be mitigated. So comment on this, and along with that, your comment on third party insurance for the BESS installations. Over to you, Mr.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Praveen. Thank you for inviting me on this. So I think in terms of financing, if you see the renewable market in general, India, the financing in India is pretty deep enough already. So it's just battery is obviously a new technology. So you don't have very large scale, deployments of batteries in India right now. So you would need, so for example, any bank who would evaluate project financing for this would want to do diligence on the quality of the suppliers, on their established history in terms of operational performance elsewhere if under similar conditions. So these are the key issues which you would see. I don't see batteries in a sense as a completely new thing because renewables, people understand. So batteries, for example, we have looked at and we have done projects where batteries have been added as a part of the project. And if you standalone BESS projects, so there the contracting structure would be important. If you do you have availability based payments? How do you since you look at that, some tax issues are also have availability based payment. It would attract GST if it's a capacity if it's based on sale and purchase of electricity, it would be treated slightly differently. So those things are in terms of contract structure which you need to address. But other than that, in terms of availability of financing, I think BESS projects have started coming into the mainstream. So you have financiers who look at BESS projects in the same way as they would look at any other solar or wind project. As long as the contract structure is okay, the sponsors are fine, the technology is tested, that should be able to get finance in the Indian market. So that's there in terms of the BESS. In terms of standalone BESS for arbitrage. So that's something which there appears to be a business case for that because the available arbitrage amount is high. But in terms of pure financing of a setup which is purely set up for arbitrage of merchant risk, how do you address that? Is this arbitrage is this going to remain for a very long time? Because the way the amount of batteries you'd see the amount of batteries are getting into the system, this the difference between the daytime solar prices and the evening peak will eventually go down. So will this still make sense for a pure arbitrage model? Maybe not, maybe yes. Or you'd keep seeing batteries only added as a part of your solar plus wind plus a battery setup, or probably either a solar plus battery setup. So things like that. So these are the things which lenders would primarily look at. But in general, there is enough financing available in India to essentially support all of the best projects which are expected to come up. So that's pretty much it that I want to say.
Thank you. Now we need to get few questions from audience. Before that, quickly, Samirji, if you would like to share your view, you raised your hand.
Yeah, just I wanted to add what I told about the safety net. So what I say that developers will be equally conscious, but the safety point has to come out of the ecosystem, right? If developers are too much on the price, then safety goes away. So this kind of forum or this kind of alliance where the safety thing has to be driven by the entire ecosystem. Because see, right now Indian in the country needs a lot of BSS battery storage applications. Apart from PSPs where the gestation period is high and the units are 120 megawatt to 40 megawatt minimum operations of hydro. These are all also things. So where PSS has a very good applications from that point of view, and the target should be a lot of C&I segment should go for that. So this we should not lose our focus in the pursuit of getting the price discovery. Second thing is also we have to very stringent upon the technical specifications. Like a lot of new chemistries are coming out. I was hearing that the electrolytes are also getting gel type, something more inflammable. So all those things are happening. So I mean, there has to be ecosystem where all these technology developments, advancement must be absorbed quickly so that we see a good progress in India. And the ecosystem has to be resilient for all these factors for a very right implementation in the right directions. That's what I wanted to add.
Yeah, thank you, Sumiji. These are very important point that while we need a cost-effective solution, but safety should not be compromised. And also, while developing this kind of solution, we need to think about the circular economy since beginning. So that because these are material intensive technology we are using for low carbon transition. So we have to ensure that this circular economy thinking, end of life recycling should be embedded since beginning itself in the thinking. Thank you so much. I would like to hand over to Ms. Meenakshi for the Q&A. Meenakshi, can we take questions from the participants? They can mention.
Yes, sir. Hi, all of you. I am Vishali. I will be taking over as your host for the rest of the session. Thank you, Dr. Parveen, for leading such a rich and engaging discussion. And sincere thanks to all our panelists for your valuable perspectives. Now it's time to have a poll question number 3. I'll quickly present on the screen. Give me a second. Yeah, so poll number 3 is on the screen. Everyone, please pitch in your answers fast. After this, we will have one more poll question. Then we will moving towards the question answer round. So I'm launching poll number 4. Here all, please pitch in your answers for poll number 4. So now we'll take few questions from the audience. Let's open the floor for Q&A. So someone has asked, many winners of standalone BESS are looking to source the complete BESS containers. Many winners of standalone BESS are looking to source the complete BESS containers from China. What are the reasons for it? As many companies in India are in process of installing sufficient cell to container BESS assembling capacities.
Yeah, Vaishali, I can take this question. So the kind of first of all, cell manufacturing, as they've also mentioned earlier, is almost entirely in China. In India, there is no cell manufacturing for standalone BESS, or if there is, it is not at the same level at which the technology is available in China. So hence, there are very little options presently apart from importing from China. So hence, all developers are doing that.
So next question is, LFP line be used for NaION chemistry?
If I understood the question, sorry, Ayush, go ahead.
No, go ahead then. Sorry.
If I understood the question correctly, sodium ion, can a lithium LFP line can be used for sodium ion? That is the question, or something else is the question?
I repeat the question, sir. LFP
Yeah.
line be used for NaION chemistry or any retrofit cost?
Of course, retrofit will be required, but then complete overhaul will not be required.
So next question is, when BESS marketers will develop in full scale for ancillary services like reg up, reg down, and spinning reserve?
So at present, see, what is happening in India is that the secondary reserves is allowed for BESS, but it is regulated, right? Now you're not given capacities that are charged. That is, if you are used, then you will get paid. If you dedicate your capacity, you are not getting paid. So ancillary market as of today, though it has been approved and a guideline has been approved, but then implementation is a I want to say pain. Implementation has been trouble in this area.
So I'll take the last question, sir. Containers coming from China may coming with large scale fire test, but what about integrated or assembled in India?
I'm happy to take that one if everyone's okay. So there the industry standard on certification that we have been adopting so far is UL 9540 and 9540A. So any product that is built out, like I mean, the standardized product these days is a 20 feet container, typically houses 5 megawatt-hour of batteries. So this is what would be coming from China and would have the UL 9540A for all the good manufacturers. If we are assembling it in India, the expectation based on the tenders that have happened, you would be expected to have the same certification available for the end product to be there. Now, if you are assembling this in India, then in that particular case, you will have to make sure that the final output product that you built out, the 20 feet container, would then have to be certified, recertified for that particular certification. Right now, to the best of our knowledge, this is still in the works. Like, for example, even the certification to be carried out over here is still getting worked out. So these are still pretty early days. I think there's, the whole industry really has to work together hand in hand to be able to get all of these bits and pieces in place to be able to build out a high quality, certified product in India.
Thank you, sir. So, as we drew the session to a close, a heartfelt thank you to all our speakers, panelists, and attendees for being a part of today's conversation. A special thanks to our partner, Sunsure Energy, for their continued support in advancing India's clean energy mission. We hope today's session sparked new ideas and collaboration as you shape your sustainability journey. Before we sign off, we invite you to join our dedicated breakout room for networking and further discussions with our partner Sunsure representatives. Thank you once again, and we wish you a productive and inspiring day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Leave. Okay.